from my Uncle Will, the one that brought them out on the wagon. Her tied aunt said if they named me William after her husband, she'd buy me my first suit. That's the reason I got William. I never did get the suit either.
You didn't?
No, I just got the name.
Okay, this is June 18th, 1987. This is Joe Todd, an interview with William Johnson. But you go by Bill. Okay. And we're still northwest of it. Mr. Johnson, where were you born?
Right here on this farm, but in the old farmhouse over here, where Mom and Granddad come down when they come to this country, or come to Oklahoma.
And when's your birthday?
April the 25th, 1926.
And who's your father?
Carl Johnson.
Carl Johnson. And your mother?
Lillie Johnson.
Okay. I'm going to skip on up to Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
What were you doing Pearl Harbor Day?
Pearl Harbor Day was on Sunday. Now, I really don't like my mother. I can't really remember. We probably went to church, though, up here at the Little Bethel Church. So that's where we went to church. But other than that, I just can't remember what on Pearl Harbor Day. Of course, we did have electricity then. We got electricity in 39, so we did have a radio. So we probably heard it and everything, but I don't really remember what specific things we did.
When did you join the service?
1944. They asked me if I'd like to finish high school, and I told them I would, and I went down and took my physical before. And let's see, I got out of high school May the 26th, and they called me back May the 24th for another physical, and then I went on in service.
Why did you join the Navy?
Well, I joined the Navy. I said you'd always, if you're never over 7 miles from land, number one, straight down. And if I didn't care about all the walking, and if you had a place to sleep, it's going to be dry. If it wasn't, it's going to be awful wet, and you got to ride. You didn't have to do so much walking, and you had a good place to sleep, and you always had a pretty decent meal. Maybe not the best. You had good meals when you didn't have a crew on. I mean, not just the ship's company, but if you had troops on, well, it wasn't quite as good. But,
where did you take your basic training, your boot camp?
San Diego.
Tell me about boot camp.
Oh, it was so hot out there. People that had never sunburned, well, they got sunburned on. Of course, you had all the pavement or what they call the grinder, and you did a lot of marching and just training. It's, well, 18 years old, it didn't bother me, and we had maybe a 25-mile hike. We'd have to walk out 12 miles, go swimming, 12 miles back, but that wasn't bad. And then you had to be a swimmer. I mean, you had to learn to swim in the Navy. If you couldn't, well, you're just in trouble, or they just keep you there. You just run over till you learn to swim. But I was a pretty good swimmer, so I didn't have no trouble. I passed at that time, the best we had to do is a second-class swimming test, which I passed. In our company, there was about 12, 15s all passed it, because you had to stay in the water and swim for a while. But we swam all the time before we went in, no problem. It wasn't, I mean, for a young guy, it wasn't no problem at all.
What was your average day in basic life?
Well, you got up reveille at 6 o'clock or whatever it was, and shower, shave, make your bed, fall out for a chow, march to the mess hall to eat, come back for a little while, march back to the barracks, and for a short time, then you was out on the grinder or doing drills, learning.
What's the grinder?
That's where you do your marching. That's your pavement, all pavement.
How long did basic last?
I think ours lasted 8 weeks. I think we was in there, we supposed to have been for 12 and they cut it to 8. They cut us 4 weeks short.
And after basic, where'd you go?
Well, after basic, they let us come home on leave, and part of us come on buses and part of us come on train. And I finally ended up, me and another guy from Arkansas, from Amarillo, Texas, we couldn't get the train out of there, so we started hitchhiking. We caught a ride on an apple truck, I can remember that. And then after we left, we went back to San Diego. I was sent to Shoemaker, California. That's a receiving ship where you catch a ship or so, whatever. And they come out there and they needed somebody at the Fleet Post Office at San Francisco to work. So I was selected to go with that bunch. Quite a few of us went in there, and we worked in there. We worked in the post office just like you'd work on a tinker field anywhere, 8-hour shift, 3 shifts a day. I mean, days, evenings, night. Huh?
When did you determine you were going to be in the postal department in the Navy?
I didn't. They determined that for me when they just selected me to go. And then I worked in that for quite a while, and they come around and asked me one time, said I was a pretty good worker. I said, you're doing a good job. Would you like to go to school, to mail school? And I said, yes, I appreciate it. So then they sent me to mail school.
Where was
that? At San Francisco, at the Fleet Post Office. So I went through it. Then after that, we was going to come home on leave, and they canceled all the leave. Part of our bunch went to the Philippines as mail clerks, and part of us went back to receiving ship, and I went back to receiving ship and called this ship the USS Ward.
And what type of ship is it?
It's a attack transport, a troop transport amphibious. And I didn't go on that as a mail clerk. I went on it as working with the main mail clerk. And then after the war was over, he got transferred off, or he had enough points to come home. Well, they made me mail clerk because you had to have at least a 3rd class petty officer as a mail clerk. And
see, what were your duties on the ship during the war? Assistant mail clerk.
Besides the mail clerk?
Well, you were assistant mail clerk?
Well, I was there for a while. Assistant mail clerk, I just helped the mail clerk sort the mail. He wrote out all the money orders or did all that part. I didn't do no part of that. And I might, if we hit an island or wherever our mail was, well, I might go after the mail, or we'd go together lots of times. And he was training me more and less on that part of it, because he'd had a lot of time out there, and he'd been there quite a while. He was a mail clerk before he went in service too.
Now, what were your quarters like on the ship, on the war?
Oh, they're just like any old troop transport. You just had a bunk and five high or so, and if you was up the top, you had to crawl up to get your top bunk. But and I had a pretty tall bunk, because up in the top's where you got the air. That's where most of the air conditioning is coming in, or that, I wouldn't say air conditioning, but the blowers was blowing in your air up there.
Now, were you separated from the troops that you were carrying?
Yes. The troops, ship's quarters was different than the troops' quarters. Yeah.
Well, why were they different?
Well, I don't.
How were they different?
Well, we was on the ship all the time. The only difference, you know, we had we didn't have lockers or sea bags or where we put our clothes. We had to have them all the time, where they was on there for 20 days or 30 days, it's gone. And we had to have our own clothing and all of our toiletware and everything. So we had a place.
Yeah, what was, do you have any contact with the troops on the ship?
Oh, not much, because when they come on, if they had mail, well, we set up a deal. I didn't take care of their mail, because I had approximately 560 men to take care of. Well, if I got 15 or 2,000 more, but so we'd set up a deal for their own mail clerks to take care of their mail. And I didn't have much association with them, really.
How many soldiers were on the ship?
Soldiers?
Yeah, how many troops were on the ship?
Well, anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000. And then all their equipment, their trucks and whatever we had to take with them.
And how big was the Warren? How long?
The Warren was just 580 feet, I believe, long. But it was deep, you know, and we carried a lot of stuff. Now, we hauled a load of Chinese troops that time. Now, we hauled twice a minute. They put two to a bunk. So they're small, and that's why they wanted to do it. And we had 7 shiploads of them.
Now, what was your first action? Your first in the
Okinawa.
Okinawa.
Well, we come into Okinawa, and we had the 66 CB battalion on, I believe, what we was carrying then, and we landed them, and it was where we landed was secure. The beach was secure, but we had what you call a beach party. Navy personnel off the ship would land with them. If something happened, they fought with them. But it was secured enough, and we unloaded troops, and then we had to stay at anchor there for 2 or 3 days, and then at night, well, the airplanes would come over. But we had boats. We had smoke generators on the ship and smoke generators on a small boat in the water, and they'd circle the ship, put out the smoke so they couldn't see us from there.
Now, are these the kamikazes?
Yeah, these are kamikazes. And they'd come in at 11 o'clock every night, and you'd probably secure watch and maybe get back to bed, and then they'd come in at 2 o'clock. Now, they did that every day. That was their routine. They just would do that to keep you up, I guess. But they could hit those ships, and I never could understand. Now, you couldn't even wear a white hat on top at night. They'd get on to you. They said they could see it. I don't know how they could, but and we couldn't fire on them. Now, the beach over there would fire on them. They'd get them in the spotlights. You could see the airplanes at night. They really shine up pretty. But they didn't want us to fire on them unless in extreme emergency, because you give your position away.
Yeah.
And one night, next morning, I was going after mail, and there's a destroyer way behind us, and he had a plane sticking right in right in front of the bridge, and it was still there. And a troop transport like us had one that hit him in the side. Now, how they could tell where to hit to see him, I don't know, but there was 2 hit there that I've seen there. So after we stopped there, but they'd come in every night.
What? I guess they're the zeros or what?
Yeah. See, I understand later. I didn't know this, but a lot of these was youngsters, like 14 years old, and you probably know something about it, that they they said they learned them to take these planes off, but never did teach them how to land one. And that was their object, just to get up there and commit Harry Carey. Well, that's it. I mean,
How much damage did they inflict on the Navy?
how much what?
How much damage did they inflict on the Navy, the kamikazes?
I don't know. See, they just did this toward the end of the war, but gee, on that destroyer, I know they did a lot of damage on that dude. And there were several sailors. What we heard was killed, but because they said it went right down the chow hall where they ate, and I don't know because it didn't go on. I just seen it. But
Okay, now, was Okinawa secure when you were unloading troops there?
yeah, that beat. I mean, they're still fighting on Okinawa. They were still fighting there, but where we unloaded troops, well, it was all right because I went on land there.
Yeah. When did you land at Okinawa?
Gee, I don't know. I guess it was in July of '45. June or July of '45, somewhere in there. Now, one of the darndest experience we had, we was in a 56 ship convoy. Now that was, we might have been going to Okinawa then, and of course we always get to hear Tokyo Rose. She'd tell us all of them and give us the good music and all that. But I was down. We had a movie at night or in the evening down Chaha, but they set the movie up, I believe, and I was down there fooling around, and all of a sudden things started breaking loose. But them depth charge, they got a submarine, but we went up topside there, and there's a destroyer way over on this lane. We had destroyers on this side. We was on the outside column, and we had destroyers over here and out here and in front. Well, the one way on our left, it picked up a sub, and he come through, and then they got out there, and they just started going in rows and throwing them things. But boy, when you're down, and it happened to us after that, but when you're down in the ship and them things start going up, you'll come topside quick, because it sure makes a concussion even down in there, and they're quite a ways from you. Well, that's one thing I would never own. Submarines, I wouldn't want no part of that.
Ever have any of your ships in the convoy attacked by submarines?
Never did. Now this, they made us go from San Francisco to, I don't know, Anahuac or somewhere. Anyhow, out from Hawaiian Islands, it was awful bad waters. And we didn't have no escort then. See, on that ship, we didn't have nothing but radar. We didn't have sonar on it. But we passed a merchant ship like today, and then the next day, we weren't too far away, but quite a ways too. It was about almost 24 hours later, well, he'd got hit by a submarine. He'd asked for, just had his stress call out, but we'd got on by. But we never did get none of our ships hit with them while I was with them.
How many ships in a convoy?
That was the biggest one I was in. It was 56 ship convoy.
And mainly troop transport?
Troop transport. We had destroyers. We had a carrier way back behind us. You could hardly ever see it. It stayed way behind. And then we was in a little, it wasn't a convoy, when we went to French Indochina up to Tientsin. That's where we took the Chinese troops. Well, we we was in a 7-ship convoy there. But we was single file, but we was all troop transport because there's a lot of mines. I know we had one APD, that's something like a destroyer, but they could carry troops, but they'd shoot up, they got to shoot out all the mines. They wouldn't let us shoot at them and blow them up. Sometimes they'd sink them. And our poor Chinese troops, they didn't have much to fight with, and their guns, they didn't have much. I felt sorry for them. They starved to death too, and they had cholera real bad. And we'd have burial at sea every day where we lose them. We lost 7, I believe, while we was at sea. And we just at sea 6 or 7 days moving. But all the ship, they had cholera, and I felt sorry for them. You took them from French Indochina in a hot climate and took them up north. It's cold as the devil up there.
Or you moved the troops towards the Chinese troops.
Like they just moved them up there to fight some more. They never did quit fighting. I don't know. They call them the nationalist troops, nationalist Chinese troops from down there French Indochina, and moved them up there. And boy, it's cold up there, and they didn't have equipment they didn't have the clothes. You spill that rice when we'd bring it on out with our winches and left it down in the hole, and you break a sack of that rice, boy, they'd clean every bit of it out. It's sad.
Yeah. You say you went to Manila?
Mm-hmm.
When?
Oh, it had been in 40. It had been it was after Okinawa in 45.
Mm-hmm. Was the war still going on?
Not Manila.
I mean, but...
Oh, yeah, we still, and see, we didn't go to Eagle. They was fighting there, yeah, but we didn't go there because we'd come another way. But yeah, we was in Manila in 45.
What did Manila look like?
Manila didn't look, it was pretty well. There was still a few buildings standing, but it was pretty well, it was tore up. It was shelled, and late day was shelled. We was there too, and it was well tore up. I've got pictures of some of that stuff where the shells hit the jail and different things and tore up the building. Yeah, it was pretty well tore up. Like I was talking to you, I'd like to see it now because I know it's a beautiful town, city now.
What were you doing on VJ Day?
Man, I'd go in there and get my book and tell you for sure, but I think that's when we was coming back to the States to pick up a load of Marines that we later found out was going to invade Japan. And we was in the Carolinas, I believe, at anchor when they announced the war was over. So then they turned us around and we went back to the Philippines. Yeah, we went to Cebu in the Philippines, and then they moved us from Cebu to Manila, and that's where we picked up the 43rd Army Division and took them to Yokohama, Japan, for occupational.
Was there a big celebration on board the ship when the war ended?
Not really, no. There were some ships and that was anchored. There was a lot of gunfire going off, but we didn't fire a shot really. And well, they come out and said they didn't want nobody to be shooting guns and stuff because there's always something going on, and we didn't. Oh, we was all happy, of course. You bet.
What was your reaction when you heard about the bomb, Hiroshima?
Well, we was all tickled to death over it. I know there's a lot of people this day and age don't agree with it, but I agreed with the bomb. 'Cause there was a lot of people got killed over it, no doubt about it, but there's been a heck of a lot more killed if they hadn't dropped it.
I heard it say 1 million American lives and 2 million Japanese lives.
You bet, because it'd been rough. Now, I don't think it wasn't going to be. And it might have been it might have been my life too, so I was for it.
So, how'd your duties differ from assistant mail clerk to mail clerk on the ship?
Okay, after the war was over, well, Mr. Lyons, he'd been a mail clerk in private life, and he had enough points to come home on, and I don't know where we was at, but we was out, we might have been, I don't know where, China, somewhere. But he had enough points to come home, so they put him on another ship that was coming back. And he come home. Well, when they did, they had to upgrade me to a petty officer, because that ship had to have a petty officer's mail clerk. So then I was made mail clerk on the ship. And then it might have been, we took a load of Marines. We took the 1st Marine Division. I don't know why now. I can't remember. I'd have to read up on that. To Ching Wang Tao. Now, I don't know where Ching Wang Tao, but it's in China. And anyhow, we anchored in the Yellow Sea. The Yellow Sea is so shallow that we anchored, you couldn't even see land where we anchored. And they took him in there, but that was the 1st Marine Division. They went in there for something, occupational forces, I don't know what for now. I just have to read up on the literature to find out. I don't know that, but I remember that.
When did you get your discharge?
I got my discharge in New Orleans, Louisiana in June of '46, I believe. Because I come home, we was going to make another trip after we come back and we come into San Francisco, and they had to put the ship in dry dock. And after that, well, I didn't have enough time to come home on. And that was in the Christmas time, right before Christmas of '45. Anyhow, we got the ship fixed and started back out, and we went under the Golden Gate Bridge again, was out to sea and got 50 mile out, and they called us back. And so we stayed in Frisco a little while, and they put us around down to the Panama Canal. We come up to the Panama Canal, then on up Mississippi River to New Orleans. We decommissioned the ship, that's what we was going to do, and we took the guns and ammunition off of New Orleans, and then when we got that done, we took the old ship to Mobile, Alabama, and left her there.
When you hit the States after the war, what's the first thing you did when you hit land?
Well, the first thing you want to do is go on liberty. Go to town. But we had a cranky old skipper on there, and he wouldn't let nobody off that ship for a day after we got into the land. And we pulled up to the docks and unloaded the troops that was coming back to get discharged. And they backed that dude out and put her out there by Alcatraz, and that's where we sat. And I know an old boatswain mate on there. He's a chief boatswain mate, and he had 20, 25 years in that strike. He said, I've been on a lot of ships in this Navy, but this is the sorriest so-and-so I've ever been on. He said, come in, you can't even get off of it to go on liberty. So we didn't get to go the first day we come in. Then the next day they let them off. See, you go on Liberty, port, and starboard, but part of them didn't get to go till the next day. But I was a mail clerk. If I was on land, I could get to go to Liberty every day. That was one of the advantages we had. Now, when we come in the States, now I didn't get to go on Liberty. They brought me mail out there, and we had been on in an awful storm off of Okinawa afterwards. And we got, well, I believe the post office wet at Okinawa, and we got a lot of mail wet and stuff. Well, that stuff finally caught up with me. And they brought me 65 bags of mail to sort. And I had to sort mail before I could go. But I had a guy working under me then. See, I had what they call a spriker, and he was working under me. And they brought me 65 bags of mail, and we went down Chow Hall, and some of it was wet and stuff. Some of it I just had to put out and let people get what they want. So you'd have a lot of razor blades, you'd have cakes and stuff. Sometimes, one time I started to throw a cake or something, I heard it glurg, 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 and they'd put a pint of liquor into and bread for them. Well, you're supposed to destroy that, but you'd put it out there, it'd be gone pretty soon. But, and then Eddie and I had to sort mail there, and then the next day we got 30-some bags of mail, and we finally got it worked down, but we was working day and night, so we could get on Liberty. And it was about 4 days before we ever got to go on Liberty. But then after that, we got to go every day.
And when did you come back to Oklahoma?
Well, after we decommissioned the ship, I come home on a 30-day leave and reported back to Norman Naval Base. Well, then there happened, I had a real lucky spell there. They called muster every morning, roll call, and they said, William H. Johnson on draft to San Pedro, California. I said, oh no, I don't have but a little time. I don't want to go to San Pedro. Well, you couldn't come home then. You couldn't go out on leave the base after you was on draft. Well, that went on for about 2 or 3 days, and he'd call his name, but about the third day he called it William H. Johnson. I forgot what this fellow was. He's a bosun mate, second class. Well, I knew that wasn't me, but we had the same name. And here I was stuck on the base because I thought it was me. And I was a mail clerk, third class, and he was a bosun mate, second class. So I said, hey, let me see that. And sure enough, New Orleans. So, and then I kept looking down there. After I went down there, they sent me back to Fleet Post Office down there. And I'd look for the draft to come in Norman, Oklahoma every day, and I could never find them. And one day I looked up there and said, the discharge at New Orleans, there my name was, so I got out New Orleans. I don't know why, and I got out and come home. That's it. Loafed around and went to college.
How big was the Navy base in Norman?
Well, I really don't know, because it was just a receiving ship for me to go back to after I decommissioned this ship, and I didn't really care how big it was, and never did. I think it's a pretty good sized base there, but I was just in the corner of it for the people like coming back off leave and different things and reassignment.
Were you on the North Forts?
I was down on the south somewhere. Yeah.
So you came back and went to college?
Well, a little while.
Where'd you go?
Central. I went 3 years in there Central, and I got smart. I got married, I guess, got done or something, and then I didn't ever go back and finish, and then I went to work for Phillips Petroleum Company, and I worked for them 34 years.
What did you do for Phillips?
Oh, everything. I was plant and field supervisor over the plant and field. But I was stillman, engine operator, working up, you know. Finally a meterman, and I was supervisor. I retired about 2 years ago.
Plant supervisor?
Huh?
You say you were a plant?
Plant. Yeah, finally they made me, I was really a field supervisor over all the gathering system, gas gathering system out in the field, which is all 300 miles, 200 and some miles, I don't know what it is.
All of western Oklahoma?
No, it's just from here to plumb down south by Oklahoma City, plumb up towards Cashin, to Edmond, to Piedmont, all this area in here. And then one day they said, well, you're plant supervisor, and I said, when did I inherit that? He said, well, just now. So, of course, I'd been around the old plant, and we weren't making gasoline anymore. I understood it. Been there for a long time. Didn't bother me.
And what plant is this?
Edmond plant.
Is it still going?
Yeah, it's right down south here on Pennsylvania and half mile south Edmond Road in Pennsylvania, right back on 164 and 10.
What are the duties of a plant supervisor?
Oh, yeah. Keep that old thing going. You know, 24-hour call. If they got trouble, they call you. If you got a line or a leak out in the field, the fire department will call you from somewhere, the city or Edmond, somewhere. You got to go. I mean, if they got trouble, you might have to stay out all night down there, but if you got trouble, you just got to stay with them and supervise your people. And that's what you're on. Yep.
How did this take a bit affect your job?
It really irritated me at first, but it really helped me. It got me early retirement. I really believe it did. And I believe, thinking about it, it probably helped Phillips Petroleum Company a lot more than people think. I think it was just about to get too far over the edge, and I think it straightened them up. I really do. And it got me, I retired at 59, and I'd get just as much at 59 as I would at 62. So I took mine.
Well, anything else?
No, not me.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.